This is Jerry Coleman, play-by-play voice of the Dothan High Wolves on 96.9 The Legend, and you're tuned into the Phillip Jordan podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in on this Friday edition of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I am Phillip Jordan, in studio host and producer of Dothan Woods Football on 96.9 The Legend, and also I'm with the Auburn Wire, part of USA Today. Got a fun show planned for you guys today. I had been promising a big episode, and today is it. You're about to hear a 40-minute conversation I had on Thursday night, last night, with Tim Worley. He was a Georgia running back from 1985 to 1988. He played in the NFL for 6 years, 4 years for the Steelers, 2 with the Bears. He was a first-round draft pick, 7th overall pick. He was an All-American at Georgia his final year where he ran over 1,200 yards. He was an All-American coming out of high school, out of North Carolina. And we talk about a lot of stuff. We will talk about the 2025 Georgia Bulldogs, his thoughts on this year's team, his memories of playing the Auburn-Georgia game, because, hey, those two play this Saturday night, ABC 6:30. So we get his memories on the rivalry. We also get his thoughts on the game, and then we jump to his career. What was his recruitment like? Then also being drafted. Going into that last year at Georgia, he was coming off an injury and then going and performing the way he did his final year there at Georgia. Getting drafted. Was a lot playing for Vince Dooley and Chuck Noll. And also we'll jump into what is he up to now. So a lot of cool stuff here with Tim Worley on the podcast. And then after that, I'm going to give my picks for the weekend. But before I do all that, let you guys know you can find me in the podcast. Find me on social media at PJordanSEC. Podcast available on all your favorite podcast platforms. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review, and I will read it on a future edition of the show. You can check out the show over on YouTube at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all the notifications, and please leave a comment on a video, and I'll read it on a future edition as well. Also over on Substack, so check out Phillip Jordan Show over on Substack. Anyways, let's get into it. Today's featured guest, former Georgia running back, former NFL running back, Tim Worley. All right, everybody, my guest on the podcast today, real excited about this guest, is Tim Worley. He played running back for the Georgia Bulldogs from 1985 to 1988. Also played in the National Football League from 1989 to 1994 with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chicago Bears. And Tim, appreciate you coming on the show. Excited to talk Georgia and your career with you.
Appreciate it, Phil. Well, thanks for having me, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I got my notes here, and I thought I saw it because I'm here in the Dothan, Alabama area. You were recently here, weren't you?
Yeah, I did a autograph session there at the Civic Center. We sometimes the big card shows or memorabilia shows, different, all types of sports, even Pokemon. And a guy invited me. He got a hold of me and wanted to see if I wanted to come and sign some autographs, make a few dollars. And I was like, sure. I didn't have anything to do. And so really, that's my second time going to Dothan. I was down there at a Black History event a couple of years ago.
Okay. Now the Alabama fan's been good to you, right?
Yeah. I was once married to an Alabama graduate, and no longer married anymore. So.
Well, it's kind of become a rivalry now between Alabama and Georgia. It wasn't really much of one before, but ever since the Saban, Kirby Smart stuff, it's become quite the rivalry.
Yeah, it is. We got to get over that hump, and I think we're now 1-7 or 1-8 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Kirby's got to get over that hump, man. And it was great to win the national championship against the Tide, but they've been consistent at kicking our butts, so we gotta get over that hump. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to play them again this year.
Yeah, I mean, the way they're playing right now, there's a good shot they could be in Atlanta. And this team this year with Georgia 2025, and I thought going into the year, it was weird to me because they were picked second in the SEC behind Texas, which we've seen Texas ain't all as we thought they were going to be. And then they were like fifth in the rankings. So you thought, okay, but it also felt like they were being overlooked. Obviously, 4-1, they lost that game to Alabama. What's been your overall feeling about this Georgia team?
Well, I think we got a pretty decent team. I just think we need to play consistently. The first couple of games, especially the Tennessee game, you saw a lot of confusion in the defensive backfield. And, of course, Georgia, we have a history of starting slow. We let people get out in front of us, and we have to come back in the third and fourth quarter. And I appreciate the expertise of the coaches in making those adjustments, but sometimes you got to get to a point where you are really banging and hitting those consistent drives in the first and second quarter, because some things you just can't come back on. But I do think we have the talent. I think we have enough talent to get to the Final Four, even the Final Two. I think we got a chance to win the SEC championship. And it's just a matter of guys playing consistency and establishing that identity. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When you look at Georgia in the past, every game they played thus far, they have established a run and I'm really excited about that. Really excited about that. So that's what gives me hope. And the defense is coming around too.
Yeah, and with what they have at running back, it's like a collection of guys. It's not just one guy. It's Chauncey Bowers has over 300 yards. Nate Frazier, 253. And even Josh McCray, he only has 50 yards rushing, but he's got in the end zone 3 times. Obviously had that game-winning touchdown against Tennessee in overtime. And then also you got your quarterback Gunnar Stockton. So it's not just one guy for them.
Yeah, you got it kind of reminds me of old school, You had Lawrence Tate, you had myself, Henderson, you had Rodney Hampton, David McCluskey, Alfonso Ellis, Keith Henderson. We had a stable of running backs, and I love to see that. Georgia has the same thing. And Chauncey, man, he's doing his thing. I think he's the go-to guy now. If we can get Frazier to just hang on to the ball, I still think he's that guy. And of course, McCray, man, when people don't know this, but this guy scored like 10 or 12 touchdowns in one season when he was at Illinois. Mm-hmm. And he's that big, stocky, get the tough 2 or 3 yards running back. And he's big, man. So I really like watching these guys.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's actually from around here where I'm at. He went to Enterprise High School, which is a big rival of Dothan, who I do radio for on Friday nights during football season. So he was always a guy at Enterprise. If he touched the ball, he could be gone at any moment. And, he's played really well. Like, he knows how to find the end zone, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah. I'm wondering, man, how did they get him out of the South to Illinois?
That is a mystery.
I don't get that, but I'm glad he's at Georgia. Georgia, for somehow, they always have those special guys. There's always going to be that running back or two. And I love the history of Georgia, the tradition, and we've got a tradition now where it's pretty much almost every position: quarterback, linebacker, offensive line, defensive line. And, hopefully the running back position is not fading,
Absolutely. It's almost, obviously, this week is the Georgia-Auburn game, which I'm still getting used to it being October. I miss being in November. When you think of Auburn, Georgia, just like what comes to mind for you as somebody that's played in this game?
I think, number one, you got the oldest Deep South rivalry. And that's history within itself. And then you got what I call a rock'em sock'em snot bubble, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Game where I'm talking about it's that physical. And back in the day, it was very physical. My very first Deep South rivalry with Auburn, that game, we played against Auburn in 1985 in Athens, and that's when Bo Jackson was a senior. And that's the year that he won the Heisman. But a very tough game. Bo went off, had a big game. I didn't get a chance to play my sophomore year in that game because, usually that game is played later in the season in November.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a chance to play because I blew my knee out. And so in 86, we went to Auburn and we beat them. And that's when they took the water hoses and sprayed them all over the field. I don't know if you remember that.
I've heard the story.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because nobody was really giving us a chance to win that game. And then 88, when I came back in 88 after I recovered from my knee injury, we went to Auburn, and it was a showdown because we were 5-1, Auburn was 5-1, and it was all about the SEC championship. Went down there, man, and jumped out the hole real quick on them, and running pretty decent, special teams pretty decent. Then all of a sudden we hit a trap, and Auburn jumped out in front of us. And I gotta say, that was one of the most physical games I've ever played in. And that's probably one of the most hardest hits I've ever gotten in my life in that game.
And the rivalry had to be interesting back then for you guys because the coach's situation. Of course, you're playing for Coach Dooley. Pat Dye's on the other side, but they both played at the other school. Coach Dooley was from Auburn. Coach Dye was from Georgia. So that had to add a little. Did that mean anything to the players, that part of it, or is that just kind of just something with them?
I think it's kind of something with them. And, once you talk about it, because I can remember the pregame of the game was actually played on CBS in 1988, Brent Musburger. And the pregame, they made a big deal out of it because, they was talking how Coach Dooley played at Auburn, defensive back and quarterback. And Pat Dye was a tough pulling guard at Georgia, played with Fran Tarkington. And then you got these guys switching school. Coach Dooley came over to Georgia in '64, and then Pat Dye in the early '80s. You know what I mean? And I think it's something between them, but it didn't matter. I'm always know Coach Dooley as top dog. So and Coach Dye as that one coach at Auburn. He coached some great players, man. So that's how I will always remember that.
Looking at this year's game, of course, Georgia's the favorite, 3.5. They're going to Jordan-Hare, which is always that place has ghosts. I mean, I don't know if it was like that when you were playing against them, but last 15 years, Jordan-Hare just had some ghosts or something about it that happens there when they play big opponents. But Georgia's the better team in this game. I mean, on paper and everything else. Auburn struggled offensively. They're good defensively, but the offense has definitely struggled this year. Just what's your thoughts on this game?
Well, I do give Georgia the edge. Sometimes I think we play pretty good out of town. Mm-hmm. For some reason, Georgia plays pretty good on the road. I think we do have the edge. I think it's going to be a tough game. It's not easy to play in Jordan-Hare, so it's going to be a tough game. We got to eliminate a lot of mistakes, and we got to take advantage. We got to take advantage of the opportunities that we have when we get great field position. I think special teams is going to make a difference in this game.
Which means Georgia's going to win because Auburn's special teams have failed them.
But I really do. And you got to – it's like this, Phillip. You when you look at college football, there used to be a movie. I don't know if you remember the old movie Any Given Sunday. Mm-hmm. You remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and basically what they were saying, any given Sunday, you can get your butt kicked by the sorriest team. Okay, and it's like that in college now because of the transfer portal. So any given Saturday, anybody can beat anybody. We talk about Texas and Penn State. They had these guys at number 1 and number 2, but look at them, they're not even ranked now. Pretty much. And it just goes to show you what are these guys looking at? I don't mean to deviate from the question that you asked, but what are these guys that call to make the calls, about the teams and stuff? What are they looking at? And I'm like, I just watched Florida dominate Texas. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so this is why I have the mentality. I've always had this mentality. I don't care who I'm playing. When I played in Athens at Georgia, there's a high school there called Clark Central High School, okay? If I played in Athens at Georgia, I didn't care if we were playing Clark Central. I'm going all out 100. And so any given Saturday, Georgia can go down there and be lax and not be on their game, and Auburn will kick their butts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We are in foreign territory, but we always play good. Sometimes, when we're in Auburn, Alabama. I think it has something to do with Coach Dooley being from there.
There was a time in the rivalry, it did feel like the road team was always winning too. Like Auburn would always go to Georgia and win, and then Georgia would come to Auburn and always win. It was a long stretch, I think, like in the 90s and into the early 2000s where it was that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was, when I go back and look at some of the history and look at the 80s, when Herschel was there, and, when Coach Dooley won those back-to-back SEC championships, it always came down to that Auburn game, and they won it on the road. It was on the road. I don't think they ever clinched the division championship. I don't think they clinched it ever in Athens, when Coach Dooley was there. It was always on the road. So, I'm the type of person, Phillip, listen, whether we're playing, people say you have the advantage at home because of the crowd. But see, when you are mentally and physically prepared, I don't care where we play. We can go out and play. We can go out and play in the street. I don't care. Okay, line up and let's get it. That was my mentality.
And just talking about your career, playing football, from North Carolina, Lumberton, North Carolina. I hope I'm saying the city's name right. How did you end up at Georgia?
Oh man, this is it's crazy because I grew up ACC. Lumberton is about hour and a half, the most 2 hours from Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Durham, and all those areas. So you had the Tar Heels, you had the Wolfpack, you had the Demon Deacons, you had Duke. All those schools were in the vicinity, and then up you go down south a little ways, a couple hours, you got Clemson. So I grew up watching ACC. Now check this out, Phillip. A lot of people think that I came to Georgia because of Herschel and all this, but I'm gonna tell you who my guy was in college. My guy, I'm a Tar Heel at heart. Okay, let's just go ahead and get that out the way. Some of my dog teammates don't like that, but I'm a dog for life and at heart. But I'm a Tar Heel at heart, only in basketball though.
So you're not into Belichick right now, so
no. I didn't know. But I used to be into UNC football because they used to have a guy named Calvin Bryant. Okay, and I don't know if you remember him. He was a first round pick, one of the first guys to go into USFL.
That's right.
Philadelphia Stars, and then when the league folded, he went over to the Redskins. Calvin was that guy. He was 6'1", 6'2", about 205, 210, ran a 4.3 and a 40, and he was a great running back. And he did a lot of damage when he was at UNC until he tore his knee up against Georgia Tech. And then you had guys like Ethan Horton. You had guys like Tyrone Anthony, William Hughes. I paid attention to those guys because they were right there. And plus, I used to go to Chapel Hill all the time. But what steered me away from Carolina, I think I was being groomed to be a Tar Heel, was when I met Dick Crum. Dick Crum used to be the head coach of the Tar Heels back in the 80s. The 80s, all the way through the 80s. I think it's a part of the 70s. But when I met him, he had a dry sense of humor. I just couldn't connect with him. You know what I mean? And so I kind of took them off the list of one of my top schools. And a lot of people were upset with me. There's still people, Tar Heel people, that are pissed off at me. I'm gonna say it, pissed off. It's been 40 years. And I'm at my 40th year reunion we're having this weekend, and they're pissed off at me still, right? But ended up in Georgia. Oklahoma was at the very top of my list. Okay, Oklahoma in this order, Phillip. Oklahoma was number 1, Clemson was number 2, Florida State was number 3, Georgia was number 4, Tennessee was number 5. And how did I end up at Georgia? I ended up in Georgia because my mother did not like Barry Switzer. She said, that is a slick, sneaky man. I cannot let you go out to Norman, Oklahoma, and live out there for 4 years. And I was so frustrated. And let me tell you, Jim Donnan, who became Georgia's head coach in the late 90s, he was the offensive coordinator for the Oklahoma Sooners back when they were recruiting me. Okay. And when they were recruiting me, it was me, a guy named Jamel Holloway from out of California, Compton, California, right? And Troy Aikman had just transferred to UCLA. And so me and Jamel, we were going to be the two top guys coming in that year in 85. And they had promised me to switch the offense back to the I formation, just like they did Marcus Dupree. So I was on my way to Oklahoma until my mom met Beatrice. She said, "There ain't no way you going out there." No. And so what it came down to when I actually made my decision, I actually signed back then. When you signing day, when you were late doing it, it was a big deal. You know, they do it all the time now. So I signed late. But before I did, Jim Donnan made a trip back to Lumberton to try to talk me into becoming a Sooner. You know, he felt like he could talk. But when he knew that I wasn't going to do that, this is what Jim Donnan said. He said, "Tim," he said, "with your style, your speed, your size," he said, "the best fit for you would be the University of Georgia." I said, "Why, Coach?" He said, "Because you got a chance to be the next Herschel Walker or better." And so I took his advice.
How do you nod compared to Herschel Walker?
Yeah. He said that, and the speed was around the same, and the size, and I think I was destined to be a Bulldog, just the way things worked out. And when you pay attention to it, Phillip, check this out, man. I only played 2 years at Georgia. Mm-hmm. I played my full freshman year. I got hurt in the fourth game of the season of my sophomore year, blew my knee out and totally missed 2 full years. And then I came back in 88 and had my best season ever at Georgia. So that was just 2 games. 2 years and maybe 3 games.
Yeah, and I wrote that down, your stats, and I've seen it where you did get hurt your sophomore year and you missed all your junior year. When you're going into that your senior year where you rushed for over 1,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, All-American, SEC Offensive Player of the Year, what was the mindset going into that year just coming off that injury?
Well, number one is most athletes will tell you this, and this is why I say this. This is coming from me because it runs a lot deeper than just what I'm about to say. It runs deeper for me to come up with this answer. My identity was solely in being an athlete, okay? And when I say this, I'm saying this from the heart. When I went to the University of Georgia, I didn't go to Georgia to get an education. I went to play football. Okay, that's truthful. I had it backwards, but I knew I had to do what I had to do to play. Okay, so when I got hurt, I didn't know what to do with myself. And when you get hurt, you don't feel like you're part of the team. I couldn't travel no more. I had to rehabilitate my knee. I had to catch a special bus to class. I had to walk with crutches, and you just don't feel like you're a part of anything. Okay. And so I felt like I took on a type of depression and all this stuff, and I stopped going to class. I just didn't want to be a part of anything anymore because I couldn't do what I came there to do. So once I got over that hump and started to work, because I thought my career in football was over, and I started to work my butt off to get back. And that's what I did. I worked my butt off to get back. And it took me leaving UGA, people don't know this, leaving UGA and going to a junior college for a semester or 2 and getting my GP up high so that I could re-enter the university. But at the same time, I'm working my butt off to get my knee back in shape, to keep my speed and to get even stronger. So I had a chip on my shoulder. And I said, because a lot of people counted me out. And when I got back on campus, and I missed all of 87. I'm there, but I couldn't play. And then when my chance came in spring practice in 88, Phillip, I said, okay, if anybody come into this arena with me, I'm going to destroy you in practice and in the game. And guess what? That's what I did. I had that mentality. I was strong, Phillip. I was bench pressing 455 pounds. I was squatting 600 pounds. I was power cleaning 425 pounds. And I'm running a 4.3 and a 40 at 230. And whatever I hit, move. And when you look at that 88 season, man, I was trying to destroy everything that I hit.
Yeah, I went back. I watched some of the highlights. That was obviously the case. You could tell you were a player that was on a mission. And you had a pretty good running back room, too, because right next to you or behind you there was Rodney Hampton. So you had two future NFL running backs in y'all's backfield.
Yeah. 2 first rounders. Rodney was late first rounder. And then you had Henderson, who went 3rd round at the fullback position, which is ludicrous because fullbacks don't get drafted that high. Mm-hmm. Henderson had great hands and he could run the ball and very, very intelligent football. His football IQ was very high. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then before that, we had Lars Tate. Lars Tate was a high 2nd round pick. David McCluskey, both of those guys, Tate and McCluskey, God rest their souls. McCluskey people forget, he got drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals, I think, in the 8th round, maybe the 8th or the 9th round. And spent the year with them. And but yeah, man, it was also those guys, we made each other better because we were all we could have all went to different schools and been starting tailbacks or starting whatever. Okay. And we made each other better. When I came off the field and Rodney Hampton went in, you really couldn't tell the difference. When Rodney came out and Tate went in, you really couldn't tell the difference because most of us, we were all kind of the same size.
And obviously a mutual friend of ours, your teammate, Troy Sadowski, has told me about that running back room plenty of times too, and I've had him on the show as well. And then, of course, next NFL, you get drafted in the 1st round, 7th pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still to this day, one of the best franchises in the NFL, just how they're running everything. What do you remember from that process when you got drafted?
Well, this is something a lot of the fans don't know, people didn't know. See, back then, it was very different than today. Today, it's glamorous. Today, Hollywood's involved. Today, they make it look like, all these guys, all from different colleges, that are predicted to be in this round or that round. They all get together and they work out together. And it's just this whole, back then it wasn't like that. When in the 89 draft, my draft process was one of the loneliest processes I've ever been in. Okay. Because number one, Phillip, I was a redshirt junior. Okay. And I had a chance to come back and play my senior year when Ray Goff became the head coach. But I made a decision to leave only because, number one, I was predicted to go very high in the draft in the 1st round, and because of the knee injury that I suffered, and I didn't want to take that chance again. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I knew the only reason I left Georgia is because I knew I was going to be the top 10 in the 1st round. I knew that for a fact. Okay. And even Detroit, when I talked to their scouts, when they worked me out, Barry Sanders hadn't declared himself eligible for the draft yet. He was a junior too. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he hadn't declared himself eligible. And so they talked to me before Barry did that. And they said, if I'm still at the 3rd pick in the 1st, they said they were going to take me. Okay. And so, it was a lonely process. I had to work out on my own. Wasn't allowed to go to the combine. People don't know that. Didn't go to the combine. Juniors wasn't allowed to go to the combine. Barry Sanders and Keith Henderson and myself, we were the only 3 juniors in that draft. Okay. And so all 28 teams at that time, it was 28, they came and worked me out. Had me run the 40, had me do the vertical. And a few of them wanted me to, do the bench press and all that stuff. And I didn't even do any workouts as far as ball handling, movement. They watched me run the 40, and most of the coaches said, that's all we need to see, because at 2:30, I ran a 4.38, and then I ran a 4.35. Okay. And they said, that's enough. We don't need to see anything else, And so, yeah, man. And so I was surprised when I think about it because no football drills or anything, just straight 40 and a vertical. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but that process all the way up to the day I got drafted, Phillip, it was a lonely process. I was back and forth to California because of all the people that I hired, they were from out of Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. I'm working out on the beach and all this stuff. When I got the notification and the word that my contract was finished, when my agent paged me, I was doing a workout on the beach in Manhattan Beach, in California, in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
He said, my contract's done and FedEx will have it at the apartment within the hour. And that was something special,
I'm sure. Yeah. And then going from playing for Coach, Vince Dooley and then Chuck Noll, I mean, what was that like playing for him?
Well, I think you don't really appreciate it until now, when you're done with it, because a lot of times for me, when I was in the mix of it, I didn't realize what I had, even all the way back to high school, because there's some memorable moments on the field when I was in high school, things that I'd done, things that I don't see how the heck I done, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And even moments, even the coaches that coached me in high school, Bob Hanna, which is a known champion high school football coach in the South Carolina and the North Carolina, Ruffin McNeil, who head coach at East Carolina. He was my high school coach. Had some great tutelage, and then to be under guys, a gentleman like Coach Dooley and the whole coaching staff that he had there with Bill Lewis and George Hafner and Coach Hollis and Storm, Coach Storm, all those guys, man, just great fundamental sound coaches that made you better. But Coach Dooley, you just respected him because it was like he commanded respect by just showing up. Mm-hmm. Some people have that on them. Some people have that it factor. And to be able to play, he was the type of coach that when he patted you on the back and just assured you that you were doing a great job, man, you would run through a brick wall for that guy, And Coach Noll was the same way. And, they stood apart. Those were those Bear Bryant, Dooley, Chuck Noll, Bo Schembechler, Woody Hay, all those guys, those kind of guys that you just respected because of the position that they had, Mm-hmm. But now it's a little different now. Some coaches, they're more player coaches. Coach Cowher was more of a Coach Cowher, when somebody asked me what's the difference to Coach Cowher and Chuck Noll, because I played for both of them. I said, okay. Coach Cowher was like, okay, let's go to Five Guys and get a burger, some fries, and have a soda, and let's talk. Okay. Coach Noll was like going to the principal's office.
Okay. Yeah,
that's how it was. But I was young and arrogant and whatever was going on with me, so I really didn't understand. All I knew is if I didn't feel right and I didn't feel like I was getting treated right, I was going to say something. I didn't say it to the public, but I was going to say it to them.
Yeah. And to me, just with the Steelers organization, it's just amazing. And just like me, I'm in my late 30s, and there's only been 3 coaches for this franchise. It's Chuck Noll, Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin, and it's just the consistency and everything. You got so many teams out there that are just so trigger happy to fire a coach, but this is a franchise that has, when they have a guy, they hire a coach, they stick with them, and that's probably a big reason for the success of the franchise.
Yep, Chuck Noll, I think he came in 69, and I think his first pick was Mean Joe Green out of Texas State in 1969, and Chuck did it for 20, 25 years. something like that, and then Coach Cowher, and that is, you know what, Phillip, that is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Since 1969, you've only had 3 head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And think about other teams that's had 15 different head coaches since that time.
Yeah. And I love watching Mike Tomlin press conference. And even though I'm a guy that wants to be full-time media guy, I love watching his press conference because if somebody's going to ask him, he has no time for bad questions at all. And they're pretty good this year. I think they look like to be a playoff team. They got a little improvement at quarterback. I'll be honest with you, Tim, I'm a Packers fan, so I kind of am paying attention a little bit more with the Steelers just because Aaron Rodgers over there, my old quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, they're playing a little bit better this year with him. I got 2 more questions for you. I kind of think I've kept you longer than I thought.
I'm having fun, man. Ain't no rush. I'm having fun.
Good deal. It's interesting with running backs now because I felt like, a few years ago, people were just kind of looking at the running position because the game had turned to so much of a passing game now. And running backs, in a way, I felt like we're getting disrespected, discredited. But I think the last couple of years, with Derrick Henry and what he's been able to do in his career, and then Saquon Barkley with the year he had, and even, I'll bring the Packers into it, Josh Jacobs, it feels like there's been a resurgence with the running back position. How do you see the state of the position now?
Well, you just named some great running backs, and a lot of those guys, especially Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry he's an old school running back. And basically, if you pay attention to it now, you can tell that style and that system that we come from. I felt like Derrick comes from what we come from. The big 6'2", 6'3", 200, well, he's 250, but, 225, that was automatic back in the day. So now you got more of the short, stocky guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Derrick's style, you can just tell, it's beginning to fade a little bit. And I don't know if people will agree with me because, number one, the field is spread more. The gaps are not tight. See, it was a downhill game back when we played because you had tight gaps. And the first thing you established was the run, like you mentioned earlier. Now the first thing that is established is the pass. That's why you see more yardage, more records broken in the passing game because they're trying to establish the pass now. That's why you're seeing more penalties because linemen, when you're passing, you got to give the quarterback more time. So that's going to cause for a hole. And then you got defensive backs and linebackers guarding the receivers and tight ends and even a back coming out of the field. There's more likely that somebody's going to hold somebody and it's going to be a pass interference call. But I think, and I hate to say this, I think the running back position, is slowly phasing out, kind of like the fullback position and the tight end, because most tight ends now, they're like wideouts, and they're like the H guy. Yeah, you got the guy like Kelsey. You got most tight ends now, they move just like wideouts. They catch, and they're just as fast as the wideouts. So you slowly move that blocking tight end out of the way. Look at Brock. Brock. Look how big, look how fast this guy is. He moves just like a receiver. They can block, but it's not that hardcore pounding every play when you're running the ball, the type of blocking that Troy did. I tell people all the time, Troy Sadowski helped me become a first round pick. Troy used to get me around that corner. I'm telling you, man, Troy was a great blocker.
I have asked him before. I said, Coach Dooley never wanted to draw you up a reverse or anything like that when you were playing. And he just usually laughs when I ask.
I don't think Troy had the speed to run a reverse. Troy had good hands. I don't think he got a chance to really catch the ball like I know he could have, because he didn't drop balls, but he could block and he ran good routes. Man. He was big. Troy 6'5", 6'5", 240, 250 playing tight end, man. That was pretty big.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, with that position, it's still important. You got to be able to run the ball. So it's just, I wanted to ask you that. I had somebody that, played position and all that. And I guess, finally, of question that kind of tied into now. What are you up to now?
Basically, I went from playing football and not knowing who I was to really, really going through some major transitions when I retired in '96 for a couple of decades. I really didn't know what to do with myself, but it wasn't until Phillip, I surrendered to the good Lord that I discovered that He put more in me than just being an athlete, a football player, or a track star, a baseball player, whatever. He gave me so many gifts. He gave me the gift of exhortation, the gift of speaking, and I was called into the ministry. I knew I had that calling, but I didn't want it. I ran from it for a lot of years, and I ran so hard that I figured I can get the Lord to change His mind about me. Maybe you got the wrong one, Lord. So basically, what I'm doing today, I'm in ministry. I am a traveling evangelist. I travel up and down the East Coast, do a lot of speaking at different events, churches all over the place, a lot of FCA stuff, a lot of men conferences, and I just get a chance to preach the gospel. So spend a lot of time with the youth, the kids, the youth, and also a lot of time with adults, but mainly men. You know what I mean? And God uses He uses what I went through, a lot of stuff that I went through. And I felt like I had to go through that. If I hadn't went through what I went through, I wouldn't talk and be the person that I am today. And so, we always hear a platform or stage. Back when I was balling, it was a platform, and I didn't know what I had, Phillip. And so I didn't know I didn't understand the influence. I didn't really understand what I had until like now. And now I look back at it. God took what we call a platform. He calls it an altar. He's brought my altar sports forward. And now He is taking that altar for me to glorify Him on that altar and to help draw people to Him and make disciples. So that's what I do, man. That's what I do. And I do it because He called me into the ministry. He marked me into the ministry, man. And I tell you, man, it's my life now is so peaceful and beautiful. I know it's important. I know it's important. It's important to serve. I'm serving. I'm helping. I'm not being a selfish person. Me, like it used to be. And I'm out there every day. Just even in the streets, man. I'm about to speak at this event in Dawson, Georgia, taking Jesus to the streets, man. I'm going to be in a parking lot at Ingles grocery store, man, preaching the gospel, man, coming up in about a week or two. And I'm fully persuaded, Phillip. But it took me going through hell in order to get to this point.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. And, I know being friends with you on Facebook, I see your posts, and they're all encouragement. I always enjoy the stuff you put on social media. So yeah, that's great. That's awesome. And I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun. I think we went longer than what we said we was going to do, but I think we left enough on the floor where we can come back maybe down the road and have you on again.
Always.
But
let's do the Florida game.
Hey, I had some notes about the Florida game, so I may hit you up again the week of the Florida game, and we can jump into some of your history with against the Florida Gators. But anyways, it's been fun having you on, and I really appreciated the time.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
All right. Once again, thanks to Tim Worley for coming on the show. I had a lot of fun with that conversation, and we left some stuff out there. There was some stuff in my notes I did not get to ask him in that conversation. So hopefully down the road we will have a part 2 with Tim Worley, and I'm looking forward to that. Real quickly, before we get out of here, the picks for the weekend. First in the SEC, number 8 Alabama will be at number 14 Missouri, 11 a.m. ABC. Alabama is a 2.5-point favorite. 51.5 point is the over/under. Alabama, this is a potential trap game. Just you don't know what you're getting with Missouri, and they are playing an 11 o'clock game. Early kickoff here. If both teams play to to their talent, Alabama's going to win this game easily. I think Alabama wins. I think it's a close game, though. I think there may be a little sleepwalking early in the game. And this is the best running team Alabama's played all year. But we just don't know what Missouri is or how good they are just because of their schedule. But give me Alabama. We have the Red River rivalry. Number 6, Oklahoma playing Texas. I'm going to go with the upset here for a lot of folks. Now, Texas is favored by 1.5, but we also saw news on Thursday that John Mateer is going to try to play with the hand injury. I think Texas is going to win this one. They got to have it for one. They can't go to 3-3. Arch needs a big game. Sarkisian needs a big game here. Texas is trying to stay in the playoff hunt. I think Texas is going to find a way to win the game. All right, some other games we got going on. Florida at Texas A&M, 6 o'clock, ESPN. A&M is a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is 47.5. Look, Florida may have bided Billy Napier a little bit of time with a win over Texas, but maybe not much if you lose this game to A&M. Then you drop to 2-4. But I don't think Florida's going to be able to do it 2 weeks in a row. A&M's playing really good defensively here lately, and their offense is pretty solid. A&M's a really good team. They're going to win this game, stay undefeated. Georgia at Auburn. We just got to talk about that with Tim. Georgia's number 10 in the country, 4-1. Auburn's 3-2, 6:30 ABC. A&M is a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is 46.5 points. I'm going to take Georgia to win the game by 10 points, 23-13. Just don't have confidence in Auburn's offense. And they just need to try to run the ball, and that can maybe keep Georgia somewhat honest, and maybe you can hit something down the field, but that also requires Jackson Arnold getting rid of it. I think the Auburn defense keeps them in it. Georgia's not a great pass rushing team, so Auburn can get Jackson Arnold some time, but it's just going to come down to him cutting loose with the football. Washington State is playing at Ole Miss. Washington State's 3-2. Ole Miss is 5-0, 11:45 a.m. on the SEC Network. Ole Miss is a 31.5-point favorite. Ole Miss wins big in this one. Arkansas at Tennessee, 3:15 SEC Network. Tennessee's 11.5-point favorite here. 67.5 points is the over-under. I think both teams will put up some points. This is Bob Petrino's first coach as the head coach now for Arkansas after the dismissal of Sam Pittman. Arkansas did not play last week. Tennessee is going to win. They're going to out-offense Arkansas, and Tennessee has a lot better or a little bit better defense than Arkansas. South Carolina at 3-2 will be at number 11, LSU, 6:45 SEC Network. LSU is a 9.5-point favorite. The 44.5 over-under. I think they're telling us they think it's going to be defense. Look, that's pretty much what it's been with LSU games. Can LSU find some offense with Garrett Nussmeier? LSU's defense plays well enough. I think LSU will win the game. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. Be back next week with some more audio content. And again, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Tim Worley, former Georgia and NFL running back. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy the football. Tune in to Dothan Wolves playing Jack High School. Dothan is back at home at Rip Hughes Stadium on Friday night. Tune in for the broadcast. 6:45 pregame. Kickoff starts at 7. Till next time. Bye-bye.